This is one of those top fives that I had so much fun putting it together, just shaking my head in amazement at some of these things that were invented and even might have been popular for a little while. I know that stupidest inventions or worst inventions can be subjective, especially if you're the one who invented it. You may not think your invention is stupid. I tried to stick to inventions that were quirky, unusual, but also totally impractical, sometimes dangerous. And you'll see there's a fine line between innovation and impracticality. But enough of the setup. Let's get to the punchline. As always, there are some honorable mentions to kind of get your mind going as to what I consider stupid impractical inventions. So, honorable mentions include the Ford Nucleon from 1958, which was a concept car designed by Ford that was intended to be powered by a small nuclear reactor. Obviously, it was scrapped due to safety concerns. There were air-conditioned shoes, which you can still find variations on this, but literally shoes with built-in air conditioning units meant to keep your feet cool. There was the revolving ice cream cone, which was a plastic cone with a motorized platform designed to rotate the ice cream for even licking. There have been different variations on this over the decades. I mean, how lazy do you have to be that you can't turn your wrist to lick ice cream? Speaking of insanely ridiculous, there was also the butter stick, which is a stick of butter that looks like either chapstick or a glue stick that you would put on your toast or whatever. This was from 2007. It was criticized for being A, unnecessary, and B, unhygienic. Ugh. And there was also the TV hat from the 1990s, which was a wearable hat with a built-in visor and magnifying screen so you could watch TV privately. It looks like a hat with a big old shower curtain around it. It's so bad. But those are just the honorable mentions. Can you imagine what's coming up now in the actual top 5? As per usual, these top 5 are in no particular order. Let's start it off with number 1, the baby mop from 2012. This is the most recent one on this list, so you might be familiar with it. But if you're not, it's basically a onesie for your child that has a mop on the bottom or mop-like fabric on the bottom so that you could turn your baby into a mop, push your child around the kitchen floor to clean up spills. This is still made, and you can go get it on Amazon, or you can go to the company's website, babymop.com, where it says it's perfect for a crawling baby. It's like you're already trying to give your child a job at 3 months old. Go clean the floor by crawling on it. It is seen as impractical and potentially unsafe. But hey, it could be worse. They could have given you a stick with it too to just push the child around with the mop onesie. Number 2 is the Smell-O-Vision from 1960. What's better than television? How about Smell-O-Vision? This was a system aiming to add scents to films to provide that extra sensory dimension to movie watching. This process was developed by a man named Hans Laube, Laube, and made its one and only appearance for the 1960 movie Scent of Mystery. The process of Smell-O-Vision for this movie would introduce 30 different scents into the theater when specifically triggered by the movie's soundtrack. But if you're thinking, oh man, those fools back 60-something years ago doing something like Smell-O-Vision, in 2001, there was the iSmell, which was a device aimed to add a sense of smell to the internet. It was a personal scent synthesizer developed by DigiSense Incorporated, and it could be connected to your computer through a USB port. It's weird looking. It looks like a little triangle gray shark's fin with a bunch of little holes in the side where the scent must come from. I don't know. I had never even heard of this until I started researching this topic. But wait, let's keep getting really crazy with number 3, the Dimpl Maker from 1936. God, if you have not heard of this, and I wouldn't blame you if you haven't, pause this podcast and go Google Dimpl Maker from 1936. It's literally a device that was intended to create dimples on a person's face. It had these small knobs that pressed into your cheeks. They say it was more of a novelty than an actual beauty aid. But some of the black and white photos, it looks like someone bent a wire hanger around their face and put marbles on their cheeks to just squish. The product was invented by Isabella Gilbert of Rochester, New York. And you were supposed to wear this thing for 5 minutes at a time, 2 to 3 times a day to get yourself the dimples that your DNA didn't give you. Man, some wacky stuff. But wait, number 4 is one you probably have seen photos of, and that is the baby cage from 1937. If you don't know what this is, it's insanity. It's literally a wire cage that could be attached to apartment windows, allowing urban parents to let their babies have fresh air by shoving them out the window into this cage. Some of the pictures, it looks like a crate that you would put a dog in, but yet instead of there being a dog, there's a baby in a bassinet or just on a blanket out the window. Naturally, this was discontinued due to safety concerns. You know how hard it is just to put things together normally with an instruction manual? Can you imagine creating this baby cage and trying to attach it to your window and saying, well, that's close enough, we'll see what happens, and then putting your child in it and then it just falls out the window? Just nuts. But wait, we've got one more. In the honorable mentions, I mentioned the TV hat. There was a toss-up between that and this number 5 as far as what made the countdown itself. So number 5 is the Isolator Helmet from 1925. The images of this look like something straight out of Nightmare Fuel. It's a helmet that was designed to increase focus and concentration by blocking out external distractions. Okay, that makes sense right there. But if you look up photos of this Isolator helmet, it looks like a big scuba diving, like a dive suit helmet with an air filter, air hole on it so you can breathe. It's so big and cumbersome and ridiculous. The reason, though, that this made the top 5 instead of the TV hat is the fact that the Isolator helmet is meant to be worn out in public, in a library. You imagine going to the library in the 1920s and there's some guy with this giant helmet on trying to read? At least the TV hat is meant to be in your own home so you don't bother others. But there you have it. 5 of the stupidest, most impractical, and sometimes dangerous inventions ever. There may be a part 2 to this coming up. There were so many that I whittled out. But how many of these have you heard of? I'm figuring none of you had really any of these because a lot of them were from the early 20th century. But who knows, maybe if you go look up in the attic, maybe there's an Isolator helmet there that you can put up on eBay.